Welcome to the Pink Dress Effect podcast with Shannon. Today we're talking about loving across the lines.
Yes.
So there's lots of lines, right?
There's lots of lines.
And so today we're going to start out. It is Black History Month. And we definitely need to recognize that because it's a great reminder.
Yes. All the amazing accomplishments of Black people.
Absolutely.
And all the challenges and difficulties that we've experienced and how we've overcome them.
Absolutely. And so we decided, because it was February, and obviously wanted to recognize Black History Month, but also to find a case that may somehow resonate with the theme of love all month. And so we're doing Loving Across the Lines. And basically it's this episode's based on the movie Loving, Mildred and Richard Loving. They were an interracial couple that lived in Virginia in the 50s, and they loved each other. He was a white man and she was a Black woman, and they loved each other tremendously. They wanted to get married, and of course back then you could not. So they went to DC and they got married, and then they went back to Virginia. Well, when they went back to Virginia, someone told on them and they got arrested. And so there came the fight of their lives. Fight for their love. And the case went all the way to the Supreme Court. They won to have the right to marry being two different races. So they paved the way for a lot of change. I think a lot of beautiful things to happen in our world and our culture. But how sad that they had to do that. It's terrible.
And it wasn't that long ago. And I think we take for granted that, you have the right to love and marry whom, you would like to.
Absolutely.
But that has not been the case for everyone. For a long time.
And I can't imagine when you love someone, you want to be with them, right? And that people were saying, no, you can't. And you don't know who you're going to fall in love with. So it's like, oh my gosh, I think I mentioned before, one of my greatest loves was a Black man or is a Black man. And I'm going to tell you right now, if someone told me that I couldn't love him, I mean, ew.
And the reality is that they can't, they have no control over who you love.
No.
But the ability to love freely is what was at stake.
Right. And not to be able to love freely, right?
Yeah.
Where people are going to judge you or say things. And I mean, it still happens today. I know cases. I know some of my friends have experienced it. And, I guess maybe I'm just so secure within who I am that I feel like this, if you're not okay with me dating a Black man that I love, then you don't need to be in my life. And I think I'm just at that point in my life. I
wish everyone was so secure.
Because why would I not want to be with the person I love? Oh, let me just go away. That's the most ridiculous thing. And so I think, a lot of credit to both of those people, the Lovings, for
having the courage.
During that time.
Yeah, because it's, you're also, putting your life at stake.
Oh, especially during that time. White and Black, right? I mean, him being a white man, that wasn't okay for him. No. Nor was it okay for her.
No. And there were real consequences. To be faced. And they were willing to risk it.
Yeah. And then they have children, and so it's
and to change it for the rest of the country, not just for them.
Right. And I think that's one of the reasons why we wanted to highlight them, because they did pave the way for so many people to be able to freely love and marry who they want. And again, you may not get the support, but people have a right to their opinions and their thoughts. But when it comes to the law, you can do it, and you should be able to marry. You should be able to marry whoever you want. And so kudos to the Lovings for taking that fight all the way to the Supreme Court and winning, which is awesome.
And really, and they weren't sure that they would win. But still were willing to take on the fight. And, it's just interesting, all the different ways. So we're talking about the Loving case is kind of starting it all. But we're also going to go into all of the other ways that we're told, our love is kind of legislated, where you can't do things. And so that's, ages. And if you're too young or too old and you can't, it's looked down upon. Or if you make class differences, The movie The Notebook.
Look at that movie. She loved Noah. She loved him. And then her mother.
Noah didn't have any money.
And her mother, when I think about that movie, how he wrote her every single day for 1 year. And she's like, why didn't you write me? He's like, I did for a whole year. And that her mother took the letters and kept them from her. Awful that you would watch your child cry every single night and do that to your child. And thankfully, right, she ends up with him or whatever at the end. But what she had to go through, but then when she got engaged, it was good because he was a lawyer and he was all the things. Yeah. He fit that societal norm for her.
And, you know, the running theme, I think, through everything we talk about today is the level of courage that it takes. And for her, too, to stand up to her parents and say, no, this is the man that I love. And that takes... You know, you have to have some guts to go against when everybody's telling you, no, that's not okay.
Yeah, because Noah in the movie, I remember at one point when
it's one of your favorite
movies.
It
is one of my favorite movies. And it keeps popping up on my Instagram for some reason. Maybe because it's Valentine's. I don't know because I haven't looked it up. But it was funny the other day it actually popped up where, you know, she comes back and, you know, and he's like, what do you want? And she's like, I don't know. You know, whatever I decide, somebody gets hurt. Somebody gets hurt, and he's like, no, but what do you want? Don't worry about everybody else. You've been worried about everybody else for so long. And so, you know, she made the courage and chose Noah, which is great, you know, and all that
they had
stuff.
A beautiful love story.
They really did. They really did. And so, yeah. And so why do you think it's like that with like age, for instance? Well, like, why can't I date an older man or date a younger man? Like, it's silly. I was going to say, but
I won't say. But I think that if, you know, there's some different things that are okay for it's more accepted with men dating younger women than it is for women to date younger men.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, I don't know where that comes from.
Actually, that's changing a lot.
I don't know that it's changing at a societal level. But I think women are becoming more comfortable with not caring about other people's opinions about who they date. Mm-hmm. And so they're choosing to date whoever they want to date. Mm-hmm. and I don't know if that society is becoming more accepting of that. I'm not sure.
Yeah, but I see what you're saying.
You think that society
I have lots of friends who date younger guys.
Yeah.
I dated a younger guy. Like,
I'm not saying, look, you know,
I'm just saying, I know, but I think that, I'm like, date who you want to date.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, like, if you love someone, you love someone, right? Mm-hmm. But I see what you're saying because, like, with the man, you'll see a man that's my dad's age dating a 24-year-old, and you're like, huh?
He's just living his best life.
But you know what? But she is too.
Yeah.
They're both getting what they want. He wants a beautiful woman on his arm, young, and she wants money. So they're both really kind of... And
now it's kind of the same. They're saying with, you know, younger guys, they like older women because they're, you know, more stable, less drama.
Yeah, emotionally stable, they say,
Yes. And, you know, the bottom line is it doesn't really matter. You know, if those two people who are involved are okay with the relationship, they have the right to do it.
They have the right. What about religion? What do you think about that? With the differences of religion?
Religion is tough and, you know, but it can be navigated, and you see couples do it all the time where one may be, you know, Jewish and one may be Christian, and maybe they celebrate, you know, Christmas and they celebrate Hanukkah, and you just figure out how to combine it. But I think it's a person's choice about how to do that. But the struggles that they navigate with their families and I'm sure are the same. Societally, I think, you know, that might be a little bit easier because it's not as obvious. You know, people can't just look at you and tell that the differences are there. But I'm sure there are struggles that go on behind the scenes with that. And that would be hard. I think it's hard, you know, if you marry someone of a different faith if they believe different than you. But
especially like not Christian, like if like I grew up Catholic and I married a Baptist, well, that's really not, you know, but it's like being, I don't know but I mean, but you're still Christianity.
Yes.
You know, but you're saying more like Christianity and I marry someone who's Jewish. There's a fundamental, huge difference there.
Yes, there's a fundamental difference, but two people have the right to negotiate that and figure that out on their own. It has, you know, no one gets to tell them that they can't marry. And I think that's the way that it should be. And you make those choices for your family, whatever works best for you.
Absolutely, absolutely. But it's kind of crazy how things are still like that in some ways. The expectations may be set by your families of what you should and shouldn't do. I mean, even me, I was married, I was Catholic. He wasn't, which that didn't bother me. But my mother actually said to me, are you going to get that marriage annulled? And I was like, no, why would I do that? Like, why would I waste money on something she was like, well, you'll never be able to get married in a Catholic church again. And I'm like, okay, and my mother was and I'm like, well, I'm going to the beach next time. That's what I told her.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, that's ridiculous. It's just a money-making thing. And why would I annul something that happened?
Yeah, right. Right. And you have a child.
Well, we did bring up that because the whole, that child's not, it would be illegitimate and all that stuff. But she actually took a Bible or a study class, and that's not even the case. That's not the way it is.
See, I didn't even realize all of that about the Catholic faith.
Yeah, because I brought that up to her, and I said, I have a child. I'm not doing that. And she goes, that's not what that means, whatever. It doesn't matter because I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. But that's my family, right? That was an expectation. Well, wow, just all the differences that there are when people come together. It's so confusing. But what about like we talked a little bit about class, right? So, okay, so I'm middle class. I meet someone who's lower middle class, which is kind of baffling to me because
the whole class system.
Because to me, it's like, if I love you, and we come together as one, my money's your money's mine. And I just have always felt that way, even at this age. I mean, I'm not saying I wouldn't have my own account now, but you know, but I'm just saying I just feel that way. And so how do you think, like, two people that come from different classes like that, how does it, I don't know, affect a relationship, do you think?
Yeah, well, I think it can cause, some challenges. But I know people absolutely who have come from different, middle class, and then, maybe kind of lower class. I hate saying lower class too, just lower income. And
it just doesn't sound very nice, does it?
It doesn't sound nice because the class system is not a good system to go by at all. But there are some challenges just with people who have money, people who have less money. Let's say it like that. And so you have to think about how the mindset of around money is. And so if you have been comfortable and you had money, that's different than someone who has not had money, and the values that they place on money and how you spend it, and do you save, and what your value is tied to money. So if I have this, then I'm of more value, so I want to spend.
And you buy things.
Even
though you might not be able to afford them.
Yes, even though you might not be able to afford them. And, someone who always had might feel more secure, and they don't need to buy things to justify their value. So that's one way that it could play into things. And then there's the balance of control. So if one person comes into a relationship and they have less money, then the person with more money, are they trying to control the dynamics of the relationship?
Because they have more money.
Because they have more money.
God, then that just makes for a lot of problems, I would think.
There's a lot of potential for problems, but if it's a healthy relationship, then you can navigate them.
You should be able to talk it out together.
But it's that's the beauty of it all. Like you said before, you don't know who you're gonna.
No, not at all.
You don't. You just happen. So you don't know who you're gonna fall in love with, and you don't know the challenges that are gonna come along with that. So you just have to figure out how are you gonna work through it.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, so I guess it would be the same with maybe religion. Too, maybe? I mean...
Yeah, it's the same. And it really is, but religion is just, I think, a little bit trickier because you have so many societal types of things from your family and your church family, and everybody's got an opinion.
And maybe the way you can overcome that with religion, right? I always felt like if you're in a relationship with someone and you want to go to church, which for me, it's important. So you have your church, I have my church. Well, why don't we find one that we both like?
Yes.
Because your church isn't bad, my church isn't bad. But if I don't like your church and you don't like my church, well, then we're not going to go to church together.
Yes.
So let's go find one that works for both of us. And I think it's almost like it's a great way to compromise.
It is.
And you're still both able to go to church and do what you want to do. But you're finding something kind of common together. Maybe with money, you could do the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Just kind of come to that place of understanding, maybe.
Because maybe one person is a spender and one person is a saver. So, if you can balance their, weaknesses with your strengths, then if you're working together, you can balance that.
Makes sense.
If you're judging, then, it might cause a little problems in the relationship. So, but if you just say, look, like, I see you like to spend a lot your let's do a budget and kind of figure that out.
Right. Exactly.
Let's talk about the value of that money, and that your value is not tied into, the size of your house or the type of car you drive or the clothes and the name brand that's on the clothes that you wear.
But people get so caught up in that. And I think like even when I was younger, I was caught up on that. But now that I'm getting older, that stuff doesn't matter to me as much. Yeah. Like at all. I'd rather have extra money, keep my house, my payments low, low interest rate. Why do I need anything larger? I mean, I think I'm content to where I'm at, right? And so it's kind of nice to be in a content place.
It is nice to be in a content. And we've talked about this before. And I grew up probably lower, not having as much money, but my mom was young when she had me. And so I kind of grew up with, my parents, my stepdad and my mom as they got married. And so they started out kind of at the bottom and then, through the years were, kind of upper middle class. But as we went through that process, I remember being really young and having all the black and white. I lived in like New York.
Oh God!
Pathmark and all the boxes back then.
With the white, with the big corn flakes. I remember that. It was awful. It was awful.
So for years, when I would go grocery shopping, I'm like, I want name brand stuff. I want name brand stuff.
It's funny you say that. I'm going to interrupt you, but my sister. Well, by the time my sister's younger than me, so by the time she came around, my mother still bought the generic. But when it was white with the black letters. I don't know if it was like that when she was, but she didn't like the generic, so she would dump all the cereal in those little like Rubbermaid containers, so that way if her friends were over, they didn't know what brand. She was so crazy about that. Like, it's funny, we laugh about it now, but it was like she was so crazy about that.
And now I couldn't care less. I just want the cheapest thing. Like, I'm going to try it.
Well, you find out as you go through a marketing class, like I did, that a lot of that stuff, it's made in the same company.
Yes.
The same warehouse or whatever, and they just have different labeling.
Yes.
And sometimes like the taste, right, isn't the same, right? Like ketchup. Things like that, right?
There's some things that don't.
You don't want to go generic, exactly. Right. But it goes back to class or just religion and just different things, right? Like you get judged. Right. Yeah, you get judged for that.
You get judged. Yes.
And,
yes.
Or maybe it's a confidence thing that like at some point you just don't really care.
Yeah, right.
You just don't care what people think.
Yeah, and I know that's where I am.
I know that's where I am too.
So you just do what you want to do. And so have you ever, during the time that you were dating a black man, did you ever feel any of those societal pressures?
No, I mean, I noticed a couple times I mentioned to him, a couple times we went to a restaurant and I felt like there were people looking at us. Mm-hmm. And I remember feeling kind of uncomfortable about it. Like, not that I didn't obviously want to be with him, but like, ew, that's so rude. Right. Like, why are you looking at us? It actually made me angry, kind of thing. And almost like, why are you with him?
Yeah.
And I'm like, why not? You know what I mean? Like, that's what I'm thinking, like, to myself. One time we were with another friend who was also dating a black man, and the four of us, and a white man was looking at us, and I mean, was in our face, and it was getting to the point, and I whispered to my friend, I was like, remind me to tell you something later. But I was getting to the point where I was going to say something to him. It's like he was staring at, and we were close. He was staring at us. And it was like, do you got something else to look at? Like, dude, like, but I know exactly what he was thinking.
Yeah.
Why are you two women with these men?
Yeah.
And I'm like, why not? Like, it was just rude. It's just so rude. But no, I mean, I'm confident myself. So for me, it's like, I mean, I love him. So why does it matter? And I don't really care what people think, as long as
no boundaries on love.
No, and I think as long as my friends that I have in my life and my family are supportive of that person, I really don't care what the people that don't know me think, because at the end of the day, who I love is my business.
Mm-hmm. And they don't need to be a part of your life. And
no.
And if they did have that opinion, they're probably someone you wouldn't want.
No, I wouldn't. If they had something to say, I would not be friends with someone like that.
Right.
I wouldn't, because I mean, it goes to, I have lots of friends of different races. Mm-hmm. Some people that wouldn't be okay.
Yeah.
My son has lots of friends of different races. Mm-hmm. And no.
Yeah. And I think, I know, when it comes down specifically just talking about race, that you and I both grew up very moving, all over, the country and outside of other countries.
Yep.
And me living all over the United States. So lived in different states and been all around all different types of people.
Yep.
And so we're very accepting of everybody, because we've been exposed to a lot more.
Definitely.
And so I think that's one of the things that ties in too, and that's the beauty. And if you love someone, whatever the line is that you're loving across, get to know more about that person and whatever it is. So if it's their religion, or if it's more about their race or their ethnicity or whatever it is, learn about it, because that's where the differences come in, when you don't understand and you see someone else as foreign. And so you within the context of being in that type of loving relationship, you also have to be aware of the stuff you bring to the table too in that relationship, because you grew up in your own environment with your own culture, and so there's that to navigate too.
But which creates a lot of great conversations, because him and I mean, we have some good conversations. we do. And I've learned a lot from him, but I think he's learned from me too. I feel like, from my perspective, but I've definitely learned a lot from him. Just historical things in our country too, that maybe I knew, but maybe I didn't really know was deep. So he's opened my eyes to some things too. So I think that's beautiful. But to your point with moving around a lot, I mean, I was around so many different races and cultures, and I actually had a talk with someone this week, and they said they were talking about diversity and all that. And I said, look, if more people could have the experience of people who are military brats or a member of the military, I really do believe our world would be a better place, because people are coming from all different backgrounds. We're all wearing the same uniform. Yes, we might be different, like our races and stuff, but our clothes are the same. Everything else is the same. And you're really learning to depend on each other, and you almost become like each other's family, right? Because you don't have anybody else. And the military is a very tight-knit community. And I really do believe if people had those experiences, our world would be such a better place. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. I love that you brought that up. That's nice.
Yeah.
Because it is, it would be such a better place.
Oh, for sure.
If we were loving across the lines, not just in terms of our romantic relationships, but in terms of our friendships and all the ways that you can love across the line.
And I think it makes your life even better, because of how boring is it to love people just like you? I mean, that's boring. I mean, right? I mean, don't you want that? I mean, I want to have
no boundaries.
Yeah, that's how you grow, right? Yeah. And to be exposed to different things. And I just feel like it's kind of boring, and I don't want to live a boring life like that. So. And
if you have open, honest relationships, trusting relationships, I know you and I also, we've had deep conversations about race, and sometimes I get a little feisty. But it opens the door for us to have those conversations about why I think the way that you do, and why you think the way that you do, and it's just the kind of our backgrounds that we bring to the table. The fact of the matter is that I am a Black person, and you are a white person, and that there may be some cultural differences there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And so you have to be able to kind of talk things through, but always just opening your heart to loving everyone.
Oh, absolutely. You couldn't have ended it better, I think, But I hope you enjoyed today's podcast. Next week, we are going to be talking about just a check-in, about New Year's resolutions and intentions. We're hitting the 2-month mark of the new year, which I can't believe it. Yeah. It is flying by already. And at the end of the day, we want to check in and see what everybody's at, and we're going to let you know where we're at with our intentions. But before we do close out, we wanted to celebrate Kim's birthday.
Oh, what?
Kim loves carrot cake.
I do love carrot cake.
Kim's birthday is this week, and so everyone who knows me knows that I'm a huge birthday person, and I love to spoil the people in my life that I love with birthday stuff. So wanted to say happy birthday, and maybe you can blow out and make a wish. But while she's blowing the candle out, just follow us on Spotify, YouTube, and we appreciate all the support. We don't want to set off the fire line here. That would be bad. But happy birthday, Kim.
Thank you.
Another year of loving you, and we pray that this next year is wonderful for you, and all your dreams come true, and all of that stuff. Oh, you are too. Love you too. But thank you again for supporting us, and we look forward to seeing you soon.